Good morning, boys and girls. So today, during our reading time, I am going to introduce the new skills to you and the new standards that we're going to be working on. And these are things that we're going to be working on a lot in the next 3 weeks. So get familiar with them, get comfortable with them. And we're really going to, these are things that you're going to use all through the school year and all through your years in school, not just this year, but the things that you learn this year are going to help you in all of your years to come. So the thing or the skill that we're going to be working on is determining the main idea of a text and explaining how the main idea is supported by key details. So key details are those important details within a story that help us determine what the main idea is. So by the end of the week, or by the end of the next 3 weeks, you should be able to say these 3 things. I can determine the main idea and key details of a nonfiction text. So we're going to talk about nonfiction in just a second. You should also be able to say, I can explain how key details support the main idea in a nonfiction text. And lastly, you should be able to say, I can summarize a nonfiction text. So later on in the week, you will always see these videos from me, but I'm also going to have Mrs. Stein help me with my summary lesson. So these are, these are your I can statements, which those just mean we want them to be important to you. So we want you to be able to say, I can describe the main idea, or I can use key details to help me discover the main idea. So this week we are working with nonfiction texts. So a nonfiction text is a text about something that is true or real. For example, here's my nonfiction text for today, all about honeybees. So this is going to be a true, factual story with things about honeybees. Here's an example of a fiction text. The story called Chrysanthemum by Kevin Hinkes, I'm guessing. So Chrysanthemum is just a cute little story, and the main character is this little mouse. So in real life, mice don't go around talking to humans or walking and jumping rope and going to school. They don't do that. So this is an example of a fiction text. This one is nonfiction because it is true, it is real, there is factual information in here, all about honeybees. So now that we have kind of seen examples of fiction and nonfiction, let's get started. So good readers always ask questions before, during, and after they read. It's just something that we do. When you're asking more questions, you're wanting to dive deeper into the story and the information. So let's just practice this a little bit. So we can tell from the title, All About Honeybees, that this story is going to be all about honeybees. So something that I would have you do with me if we were in class is we would just kind of open the story and we would just kind of skim through it just to, get our brains moving and get us curious about the honeybees and about what we're going to be reading about. So the first thing, let's just look at the table of contents. The table of contents shows where each chapter or each new section of the story starts. So some of these titles are Help from Honeybees, The Bee Colony, Making Honey, Beekeeping, Parts of a Honeybee. So here, this gives us an idea. Okay, these are some of the things that we will be learning about. So I'm not going to sit here and read every word. I'm just going to kind of skim through it and see, I'm guessing this is honey. So I'm guessing maybe we'll figure out how the honey is created or what happens with the honey. I'm not sure. This is just me asking questions. Oh my gosh, this looks like a huge hive, but it also looks really scary. So I want to figure out more about beehives or maybe the bee colony. Here is just another picture of a bee, and I'm not really even sure what's happening. So I can't wait to learn about what's happening in this process. I don't know. So this looks like maybe a hive? I don't know. But I'm just asking questions and wondering, So I wonder, is this maybe like a queen bee or the lead bee? I don't know. But by me looking through the story, I'm just getting kind of an idea and I'm getting my brain working. I am being more curious. I want to know more. I want to know more. So it's good to ask questions at the beginning of the story and to make predictions. When we make predictions, we make guesses about what we think might happen. So let's go ahead and read this non-fiction story called All About Honeybees. And remember, I had questions about the honey. How do they make the honey? Where does the honey go once it's made? Is there one bee that is supposed to be like the head bee? I'm not sure. These are things that I'm hoping we get answered by reading the story. So, All About Honeybees. This is our non-fiction text for the day. Help from honeybees. Are you afraid of bees? Some people are afraid of being stung by a bee. Honeybees might sting you, but they also do many useful things. So if you're like me, you probably have a little fear of bees. I have been stung not very many times in my life, maybe 2 or 3, but enough times to make me not want to be stung anymore. And the last time I got stung, it was literally like right here. And it was like a bee flew in here. And then I started freaking out because I saw there was a bug. And then it was just trapped and it just stung me. So that was a terrible experience. And that was just like maybe a month ago. Okay. Honeybees make honey, which we can use to sweeten our food. Think of a food that you like with honey on it. And maybe you don't like honey. I didn't really like honey till I was a grown-up. They also make beeswax, which we can use to make candles and other useful products. Honeybees help farmers because they pollinate fruit trees and vegetable plants. So I wonder what that word pollinate means. And if you see it right here, it's bolded. It's darker. So at the end, I'm going to guess that that word pollinate is in our glossary. So we're going to check it out. We're going to check it out at the end. So honeybees help farmers because they pollinate fruit trees and vegetable plants. So honeybees help farmers. This is titled The Bee Colony. Honeybees live in a very large family called a colony. The colony builds a nest called a hive. Inside the hive, bees make wax and use it to build a honeycomb. The more you know. I had no idea. The honeycomb is where the bees store pollen and honey. So there's the answer to one of my questions. I wondered, what happens to the honey when it's created? So the honey is stored in the honeycomb. Honeybees build their hives in trees. If there isn't a good tree for their hive, they may build it under a roof ledge or in the ground. Bees often make a wall of mud around the hive to protect it. See, that is something that I have never heard in my whole life. I had no idea that bees make a wall of mud around the hive to protect it. And I'm wondering, who are they protecting it from? Are they expecting that like a human goes and destroys their hive or a larger animal? I'm really not sure. In a colony, there are 3 kinds of honeybees: the worker, the drone, and the queen. The smallest honeybees are the workers. Okay, that makes sense. They are female bees, so they are girl bees, and they have many jobs. Worker bees make the honey, clean the hive, feed the baby bees, and build the honeycomb. Worker bees are the only honeybees that visit flowers. I had no idea that there was so much work into being a bee, or that there were different jobs that you could have. So this is really cool. We just learned that the first kind of honeybee, called the worker, is the smallest kind of honeybee. It's also a female, which means it's a girl or a woman bee. And they work hard. They have many jobs. So they clean the hive, they feed the baby bees, and they build the honeycomb. They're also the only bee that you will see in a flower or going to a flower or getting something from the flower. We'll find out. Male honeybees are called drones. Their only job is to mate with the queen. The worker bees feed and take care of the drones. So I can't believe that the smallest bee, the worker bee, has, so many jobs. And they take care of the drones. So here you can kind of see, I figured that this was a worker bee visiting a flower, but maybe it's not, since it's on the page that talks about the drone, which is a male bee. The largest bee in the colony is the queen. Each colony has only one queen. The queen's job is to lay eggs. The queen lays thousands of eggs each day. So I'm guessing in my head that from these eggs that she lays come new bees. The worker bees feed and take care of the queen. Oh my gosh, another job of the worker bee. So the worker bee is the smallest, but it does the most, is what I'm getting from this. The queen never leaves the hive except to start a new hive or to get away from danger. So the queen bee is the largest, but she never leaves the hive unless, two things, unless she's ready to start a new hive or to get away from danger. So this kind of goes back to a question I had about the hive here, and when they said they build mud around it to protect it. So clearly there's something that can cause them danger, because the queen bee said she'll leave if she feels like she's in danger. So I wonder what it is that could be dangerous for a beehive. I wonder what kind of animal or maybe another insect. I don't know. This is titled Parts of a Honeybee. Honeybees are insects. They have 6 legs and 2 pairs of wings. They have 3 body parts: a head, a thorax, and an abdomen. Honeybees have 2 compound eyes, a tube-like tongue, and 2 antennae. So here, I'll put this close and try to read backwards. So here is the stinger. Oh, terrible. Here's a wing. We can see that right here. It almost looks like it's see-through. Jointed legs here. The head over here. This is an ugly looking creature. Tube-like tongue. So that's here. Their antennae are up here, right here. I can't read this word. Oh, compound eye. So that also looks like gross. Here's the thorax, which was also a bolded word, so we'll look that up at the end. And the abdomen, that was a bolded word. So you might know what abdomen means, or you might know what thorax means. If you do, great for you, but we're still going to look it up at the end. And I think that was all the parts. Abdomen's back here. Alrighty, so it's parts of a honeybee. The life cycle of a honeybee. Just like many other insects, the honeybee grows in 4 stages: the egg, the larva, the pupa, and the adult. So here, down here shows the steps. So the egg, super tiny little thing. The larva, these all look gross to me because I don't like bugs. The pupa, and an adult. So that is their life cycle. They start here and they move to each phase, and eventually they're a big old bee like this. Okay, the queen lays an egg in the honeycomb. After 3 days, the egg hatches into a worm-like larva. The worker bees feed the larva and it grows and grows. The larva molts several times and then spins a cocoon. I don't know what it means to molt, so we'll have to look that up as well. It's also a bolded word, so I'm going to guess that it's in our glossary at the end, where it shows us different definitions. Inside the cocoon, the pupa starts to look more and more like a bee. It grows eyes, legs, and wings. When fully grown, the adult honeybee chews its way out of the cocoon. So that sounds kind of like a butterfly out of its cocoon. Most young adult bees are female. They will become the worker bees for the hive. The first jobs of young worker bees are at home in the hive. The jobs include cleaning and guarding the hive, feeding the larvae, and fixing the honeycomb. After about 3 weeks, the worker bees may leave the hive to look for food. They make short trips until they learn how to find their way home from faraway places. Interesting. So more about the worker bees, the smallest bees, and to me it just sounds like they have very important jobs. Next is titled Making Honey. Honeybees look for flowers. Flowers make pollen and nectar, which honeybees need for food. So right there tells why the honeybees go to flowers, because the flowers make pollen and nectar, and honeybees need those two things for food. So another one of our questions answered. The worker bees carry the pollen and nectar back to the hive. Pollen and nectar are used to feed the young bees, drones, larvae, and the queen. Any food that is not eaten is stored in the honeycomb. I would love to see the inside of this honeycomb. The pollen and nectar slowly dries and becomes sticky, sweet honey. Okay, so we just learned a little bit about the honey making process, and that explains why honey is so sticky and sweet. This is titled Beekeeping. Some people keep bees. Beekeepers build hives for bee colonies to live in. After the bees make honey, the beekeeper collects it to eat or to sell. So I don't know about you, but I would never ever volunteer myself to be a beekeeper and to be around all these bees. But there are truly people that are beekeepers. And that's true. They have these little, I don't know if they're boxes or just like little homes, kind of, to keep like the hives and to have the colonies in there. And that's where they would live. So then you would pull one of these things out of there, and this is what it would look like. And this is all honey. Isn't that crazy? And that was the last page. But we do still have the glossary. So let's go over that together. If you don't remember, the glossary is at the end of the story, and it tells us definitions of words that are within the story that we just read. So our first definition is the abdomen. So the abdomen is the part of the body containing the stomach. So think in your head, when in this story did we even learn about the abdomen, or what would it even have to do with a honeybee? Well, we learned about the abdomen when we were talking about the parts of a honeybee. So remember the abdomen? I think this is, the abdomen right here. So let's read the definition one more time. The part of the body containing the stomach. So we know the bee's stomach is all the way back here in its abdomen. Okay? The next word is colony. Several organisms of the same species living closely together. So we learned about a bee colony. Let me go to the pages. 8, 10, 12. Well, here, the largest bee in the colony is the queen. So each colony has only one queen. So the colony is just a big group of bees living closely together. Perfect. Larva. Here's our next word, larva. The wingless feeding stage of an insect that undergoes complete metamorphosis. So that just sounds like a funny definition. Let's find larva in our story. So we can find it on pages 16 through 17, 18, or 21. So let's go to 16 and 17, and let's see what's on those pages. Okay, so we talked about larva, and it's when the bee is at the second stage of its life cycle. So it starts as the egg, then it goes to the larva. And remember, the larva is the wingless feeding stage of an insect that undergoes complete metamorphosis. So metamorphosis is like a change. It goes through a big change. The next word is molts, and I do not know what molts is, so this is going to be information for me and you. Molts. Molts means to shed the outer coating that will be replaced by new growth. So think of if you've ever seen like maybe a snake like shedding its skin, or maybe if you think of like a caterpillar. A caterpillar goes to a butterfly eventually, but it sheds its skin at some point. So that's what molts is. It's to shed the outer coating that's replaced by the new growth. Next word is to pollinate, which means to carry pollen to a flower. Okay, let's go to that word, page 7. Honeybees help farmers because they pollinate fruit trees and vegetable plants. So honeybees go to flowers, they carry pollen from flower to flower, and this helps the farmers because the bees pollinate fruit trees and vegetable plants. So these bees, they might be like a hassle to a lot of us because they are kind of scary and it hurts if you get stung, but they also do a lot of awesome things, and they help out farmers, so that's awesome, especially in Indiana because we have a lot of corn. 2 more words to go over. Pupa, which is an insect in the non-feeding stage of development. So remember, pupa is after the larva. So let's look at how they're a little different. We start as the egg, then it's the larva, then it's the pupa. And it says the pupa is the non-feeding stage. So this almost looks like it's like shedding its skin, and there's the real thing. So let's see what pupa says again. An insect in the non-feeding stage of development. Last word is thorax, the portion of the body between the head and the abdomen. So let's find the pages where it's talking about the parts of the honeybee. And the thorax is the portion of the body between the head and the abdomen. The abdomen, remember, is where its stomach is. So it's back here. And the thorax is just between, I think it said the head and the abdomen. Yes, the portion of the body between the head and the abdomen. So the head's over here, abdomen's over here, and thorax is in the middle. So I'm sure you can tell just from the title what the main idea is, or an idea of what the main idea is. That was worded kind of weirdly, but I could tell just from picking up this story that it was going to be a lot of information about honeybees, just from the title and the picture on the front of the story. All about honeybees. So I feel like it'd be really weird if I read the title all about honeybees and the first page I opened up was about a golden retriever. That would not make any sense, right? No. So a lot of times we can get an idea of our text or of the main idea of the text just from looking at the front, just from skimming through the pictures and asking those questions. So remember, good readers ask questions before, during, and after our reading. And tomorrow, we'll be back with another lesson on finding those key details and helping us determine what the main idea is. So have a great day and happy reading.